Hey there, it's me Eden. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to my channel and visit my Patreon page for early access, link in the description. She walked across the room and picked up the clothes she had sorted for herself out, and then back past me to the bedroom door. As she got there, she turned. "Help yourself to any makeup you want," she said, brightly, "there's lots there." Then she was gone. I sat back down on the stool. I had managed to kiss Anita for the second time that day, and I was in ecstasy. The pain I had experienced at becoming Sarah for her began to seem worthwhile. I had kissed her, I repeated to myself, hardly believing it, and I sat there with a warm glow coursing through my frame. Suddenly there was a voice in the hall. It was Anita's dad. "Can I come in?" he asked. "There's a phone call for you, Anita." "It's Nikki." I froze in fright. "No," I nearly shouted. "I'm just getting changed." "Oh, sorry," he mumbled. "And Anita's in the shower," I added. "Perhaps we could ring her back in a minute." "Okay, I'll tell her that." "Sorry, Sarah," he said again, and I heard his footsteps go back down the stairs. I heaved a huge sigh of relief. If he had actually come in then, well, I couldn't imagine what would have happened. I decided I'd best get myself dressed as quickly as possible. I stood up and went to the bed. I picked up the pink knickers and slipped them on. I caught sight of myself in the mirror as I did so, and a chill ran through my body. There I was in bra and panties again. Still, needs must in a crisis, I told myself, and remembering the feel of Anita's mouth against mine, I picked up the tights and sat myself down on the stool to put them on. I had managed to put tights on myself the day before in Sylvia's shop, so, although not without difficulty, I completed the task fairly quickly. Standing, I pulled them up above my waist, and remembering Anita and Nikki's warnings about them riding down, picked up the other pair of knickers and put these on as well. Like the flowery ones from the day before, they were sideless. I had read in the magazine that still lay on the table that they were called thongs. I smiled to myself. I was inadvertently becoming something of an expert in women's underwear. I went back over to the bed and picked up the slip. It felt soft and silky between my fingers. I shuddered at the realization that I would have to wear it. At least it had none of the silly feminine detail of the one I had worn the day before. That thought consoled me a little as I put it on. I put on the soft pink sweater, easing it down over what Anita liked to call my boobs. I glanced at myself in the mirror. It was ribbed around the waist, making me look even thinner than I really was. Last I put on the denim mini skirt. Of all the things I had worn at Anita's, I liked this best, or perhaps disliked at least. It was comforting to do it up in the way jeans did up, with a button and zip at the front. Apart from the wig, I was now done. I picked it up. It was still quite wet. Holding the net skullcap out, I pulled it down over my head and looked in the mirror. I had it on lopsided, so I carefully straightened it out. Eventually, I was satisfied with it. I looked pretty much as I had the day before, although it was damp and a little untidy. I glanced at the dressing table and saw a brush. I'd best do something with it, I supposed. So that's how Anita saw me when she came back in, sitting in front of a mirror brushing through my hair, and wearing a pink sweater and a short denim skirt. Silently I cursed myself. I should have taken the trouble to look at least a little masculine for her if I was going to be able to kiss her again. "Oh hi," she said. "You're dressed." "Yes," I replied. "You too." She smiled at me. She had on a t-shirt with the motif girl's rule on it, leaving her belly button exposed, and a pair of dark blue jeans. "I nearly gave these to you to wear," she said, pointing to her own clothes, "but you really need the practice wearing a skirt." "Did I hear my dad come up while I was in the shower?" she asked. "Yes," I replied. He said that Nikki was on the phone for you. Nikki? What did she want? I don't know, I answered. I didn't take the call, because I hesitated. Well, I wasn't properly dressed if you know what I mean. Anita smiled in response. Well, I'd best phone her to see what she wanted. Funny, I thought she said she was going out today. I shrugged in response. I'll try not to be too long, but she natters a bit. Help yourself to the makeup. With this, she left again. I looked at myself in the mirror, with my unaccustomed long brown hair. That was twice Anita had suggested I borrow her makeup. What a strange idea. I had no real idea how to put on makeup, in spite of suffering an attack of it at Nikki's hands the morning before, and at Anita's in the evening. Thinking about it, it was a ridiculous idea, a bit cheeky even, to expect me to put makeup on myself. Anita wasn't wearing any, as far as I could tell, so even though I was supposed to be a girl, why on earth should I? I looked at one of the makeup bags, and picked up a pencil. I read the side of it, eyeliner it said. Nikki had put that on me the day before to, I tried to remember, give my eyes a better shape, or something like that. I remembered how I had been worried that she would poke my eyes out with it, and the discomfort of it scraping on my inner eyelid. I wondered if there was any left on me. I had removed my makeup twice the previous evening, but I suppose there was a possibility that there was still some left. I moved closer to the mirror to examine my eyes more closely. I turned my head from side to side, but decided that it had all come off. Good, I thought. I looked at the pencil in my hand. The point was fairly blunt and it looked waxy. I wondered how Nikki had managed to make it feel so sharp. Still, she had been using a different one, I reasoned, perhaps one that was sharper. I wondered how this one would feel, and lifted it towards my eye. Then I stopped myself. What on earth did I think I was doing? Was I really going to put eyeliner on myself, for no good reason? I sat upright, to take my face away from the mirror, feeling strangely guilty for my near betrayal of myself. Still, a voice in me began to say, what difference would it make? I was sitting there in a tiny little skirt, with perky boobs, and 2 pairs of girls' knickers on. Putting on a bit of eyeliner would just be part of the effect, to fool Anita's mom and dad that I really was Sarah. I leant forward again, and opened my eyes as wide as I could. I saw the pencil in the mirror move towards them, almost it seemed of its own volition. I stopped again, and sat back up. What would my friends say if they knew I had put eyeliner on myself? The voice came back. But what would they say if they knew I had put a skirt and a pair of tights on for that matter? The eyeliner would seem like nothing in comparison. Slowly, I leant forward again, and the pencil in the reflection moved towards my image's eye, and began to draw right on the edge of the bottom lid. It felt nowhere near as rough and sharp as when Nikki had done it. My suspicions that she had not been as careful as she might were confirmed. I concentrated hard, trying to make sure that I got a nice even line, and once I had finished I sat back to admire my work. I was quite pleased with myself. It looked quite good. Suddenly a shudder came over me. What had I been thinking of? I had just sat there, and put some girl's makeup on myself. Bugger what my friends would think. Anita would think I had flipped, and decided to enjoy dressing as a girl. There would be no more sweet lingering kisses for me then. I looked around for any of the little wipes Anita had given me to take the makeup off the night before, but could not see any. I looked in the mirror again. I looked ridiculously lopsided, with eyeliner on one eye, and the other blank. In my panic a thought came to me, perhaps if I put some on my other eye and balanced things up, Anita wouldn't notice that I had put some of her makeup on. Even if she did, perhaps I could get away with the idea that it was left from the night before. I leant forward again, and watched the pencil approach, and make up my other eye, carefully spreading a thin black line along my lid. I was fixedly concentrating on getting it to balance the other side, and didn't hear the footsteps on the stairs. Suddenly the door opened and Anita came back in. "Sorry about that," she said, and then saw what I was doing. "Oh, that's good," she declared, beaming at me. "I didn't think you'd actually put any makeup on, but it's brilliant that you have." Guiltily, I sat bolt upright and turned away from the mirror. "It was an accident," I found myself saying. "Accident? How can you accidentally put makeup on?" I opened my mouth to speak, but realized it was hopeless to try and explain how I had come to put eyeliner on myself. Anita obviously recognized the anguish on my face. She smiled reassuringly. "Don't look so worried, Steve, I don't mind." I smiled weakly back at her. "It's good that you're taking this so seriously, what with this and trying out the nail varnish last night. I'm sure we're going to do well in the contest with you putting so much effort in." I was blushing again. What did Nikki want? I asked to change the subject. "Oh yes," Anita said, as if suddenly remembering. "Apparently Tanya's kicking up a bit of a fuss about you borrowing her dress. I said we'd go round there and talk it through with her." "What sort of fuss?" I couldn't quite understand what Nikki was saying. There was a lot of shouting going on in the background, but we'll find out soon enough, I suppose. "It'd be a shame if she doesn't let you have it. Still, you looked even better in the one from Sylvia's shop, I think. We can always use that as a fallback." The thought of going back to Sylvia's boutique rang alarms with me, which must have shown on my face. "Don't worry, Steve," Anita said, putting her hand on my shoulder again. "If we do have to go back, I'll look after you, and make sure she doesn't, get too friendly or anything." She smiled reassuringly, and pecked me on the cheek. "Us girls have to stick together, she added with a grin. "I'm not a girl," I mumbled petulantly. "Maybe not." Anita smiled again. "But come on, we'd better go over there and sort this out." We went downstairs, and Anita explained to her mom and dad where we were going. She gave me the boots I had worn the day before to put on, and the bag, and then we were off, walking through the streets to Nikki's house. Anita seemed in a hurry as we walked along the suburban streets. I had trouble keeping up with her, stumbling a little in my boots, and restricted by the tightness of my skirt. "Come on, Sarah," she urged, from a few paces in front of me. "It's all right for you in jeans and trainers," I complained. "I can't walk so fast like this." She slowed a little for me, smiling as an elderly gentleman walked past us. "Well, at least you're getting some practice," she continued when he had gone. We walked on, still at something of a pace. My tights swished and rubbed against my thighs, and the bag weighed heavily on my shoulders. I stopped to move it across to the other side more than once. "We're nearly there now," Anita told me encouragingly, as we walked into another street. "Just up here and to the left." We walked on, Anita quickly and eagerly, and me stumbling along behind. Eventually we came to the road I recognized as Nikki's, and came to her house. We walked through the gate, and up the path, and Anita knocked on the door. Nikki answered it, and signaled us in. "What's this all about?" Anita asked her. "Tanya," Nikki responded, raising her eyebrows in exasperation. "She's trying to throw a fly into the ointment." We walked through into the lounge, and I was immediately struck by how crowded it looked, in spite of its impressive size. Standing were Tanya herself, her arms folded in front of her, and a vexed look on her face, and by her, her mother, and another woman of a similar age I did not recognize. Nikki went across to them as we entered the room to create a square. They turned to face us. Over on the sofa, Maxine, Nikki's elder sister, sat on the arm. Her face revealed none of the tension evident in the others. She had her knees crossed, and her arms on her knees. Sitting on the sofa was a girl I did not recognize, with long blonde hair, and wearing a rather odd outfit for the time of day. It was a long pale pink dress made out of some sort of netting, with lacy bits and pieces all over the chest and shoulders. She had a face like thunder and looked down in anger at the carpet after the briefest of glances at us. "Oh good," said Nikki's mother. "You're here. Now perhaps we can sort things out. This," she said, indicating the other woman there, "is Jane Luce." "Call me Jane," said the other woman, smiling at Anita at me. "She's just moved into town. We're trying to help her settle in." Nikki's mum went on. "And you must be Anita and," she paused for a moment, looking me up and down, "well, Sarah I suppose." I blushed a little. It was obvious from her tone that she had been told about my situation. "You look very good," she went on, "and I think you're very brave to stay like that all weekend to get the practice." "And this," announced Tanya, separating herself from the little group and moving towards the sofa, "is Lucy. Say hello to Sarah and Anita, Lucy." The girl on the sofa looked even more unhappy with this introduction, and pointedly refused to make any eye contact with us. She folded her arms grumpily and looked out of the window. "Don't be such a tease," Maxine admonished her sister gently from her position on the arm of sofa. She then turned to Anita and me. "This is Lawrence. He's entering the contest like you." This revelation hit me like a brick. The girl on the sofa was a boy. I stared again. All the clichés that had been thrown at me the day before came into my mind. I would never have guessed if I hadn't been told. He looked so good as a girl, and not just a girl, but a really pretty one. I winced in sympathy for his plight, knowing what he must be going through. He threw me a cursory glare, and then looked back out of the window. "Oh gosh," exclaimed Anita enthusiastically. "That's marvelous. He looks just as good as Sarah here. Do you know, I would never have guessed he was a boy by looking at him. I sort of wondered when I saw his dress, but I thought perhaps it was an alternative for Steve you'd managed to find." "Well, it might be yet," Tanya put in. "I decided to enter Lucy here, and I want him to have my bridesmaid's dress." Anita stared back at her. Nikki detached herself from the older women and came over to the sofa. "But you promised we could have it for Steve. You agreed to that last Thursday, and you were all for it yesterday when Steve tried it on." "But that was before I decided to enter Lucy in the contest. Now I can decide what dress he ought to have." "But that's not fair," exclaimed Nikki, and I wondered for a moment if they would come to blows, looking at the anger in both their eyes. Please subscribe my channel for the next part. And visit my Patreon page for early access.